Tired of trying diet after diet without results? Mochi Health offers a long-term weight loss solution personalized to your needs. Our board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians provide expert guidance to help you succeed. Eligible patients can access custom-formulated GLP-1 medication at an affordable set price delivered monthly. Take our free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 for $40 off your first month. That's joinmochi.com.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget you can read my work on ESPN.com. The story up now about Jaden Daniels. There's just some behind-the-scenes stuff from throughout the season, things I think you're going to like. Just more about the young man who is leading Washington to a place it hasn't been in a long, long time. Could become the first rookie quarterback to ever start in the Super Bowl. But first things first, got to win Sunday against the Eagles. Today, I'm joined by Ross Tucker. You remember him. He's a former Washington Redskins offensive lineman, played in the NFL. I'm going to get to him in a minute, so stay tuned for that. He knows the Eagles very well. He's covered them for Westwood One Radio, so stay tuned for that. So just a couple things from today out here on Wednesday. There are a lot of guys who had veteran rest days. Bobby Wagner did not practice, has the ankle injury. I would not be all that concerned about it. Same thing last week. I think you know this guy's going to play. So just a very different setup out here on Wednesday for the first return to practice for the media, et cetera. So all the interviews were in the auditorium. Typically, they're in the media room. Just there's a lot more people here, a lot more questions. So you had several players going up to the podium up in their meeting room. It's an auditorium, but it's where they have their team meetings. So just very different and just a lot more buzz out here, of course, because they're one of only 4 teams playing. Still kind of hard to believe that, but there you go. So we will be back out here Thursday. Anyways, today we talked to, it was like Terry McLaurin. It was Jaden Daniels, of course, every Wednesday. You know, he remains as unflappable as ever. McLaurin, you know, it's business as usual. And I think one of the things that stands out is like, you know, the phrase dog-ass competitors came up a few times today. And I think that's what this team is, and that's who they are. And McLaurin, one thing he said that stood out, he said when in Dan Quinn's first meeting, he said, if you're a dog-ass competitor, this is the place for you. And McLaurin said, I sat up in my seat and smiled because I've been itching for something like that. So, you know, I'll have more throughout the week. I'm going to have Louis Riddick on Friday. Talked to him this morning. Very good interview with him. And then I'll have my 5 things I think on Saturday. For you gold members, I'll be doing a private Zoom on Friday at 7:30. Trying to make sure I have that. That's a good time for me this week. So if you want to become a gold member, go to the Empire Media YouTube page, you see the word join, click on that and go from there. Anyways, so for Ross Tucker, he's the host of the Ross Tucker podcast. He's someone you should follow on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. He's part of futurefans.com, and he'll explain what that is in a minute. So just a good way if you want to get your kids to love and understand football. Ross will tell you about that, but he's also going to tell you a lot about the Eagles and about the Redskins he played for, but the Commanders, of course, he knows them very well. He's covered some of their games for Westwood One Radio. So very good insight from Ross. So here we go. Here's my conversation with Ross Tucker. The start of a new year is the perfect time to get organized, set goals, and prioritize what matters most. For me, a top priority is my financial wellness, which feels more important than ever. Thanks to Rocket Money, my goals feel achievable. They show me all of my subscriptions right in one place and help me easily cancel ones that I forgot I've been paying for. Rocket Money also pulls together all of my spending across all of my different accounts, so I can clearly track my spending habits and see where I can cut back. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/gameon today. That's rocketmoney.com rocketmoney.com/gameon today. rocketmoney.com/gameon. All right, Ross. So before we get into everything that's going on here, Commanders, Eagles, did want to ask you about futurefans.com because I know Washington fans are very excited. How can that help them maybe get more answers and more excitement?
Well, it's funny. First of all, I got to tell you, John, thanks for having me on. I am thrilled for Washington football fans. I'm thrilled for guys like you. I mean, you've seen a lot of bad times, a lot of bad football. I'm glad that you get to see this kind of positivity for the first time, maybe ever, or in a long, long time. It's funny because I know the guys that invented futurefans.com, which is awesome. It's by far the best way I've seen, parents be able to teach their kids about football.
Okay.
I mean, like if you know anybody with kids between the ages of 4 through 10, I actually wish I heard about this earlier because my girls are 11 and 12, John, and they like football. And maybe it's because I travel all the time. I don't think I've done a great job. Like they don't really understand it as well as they should. And these guys that invented this thing, they're Bengals fans. Remember a few years ago when Joe Burrow and the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, right? They were trying to get their kids to watch the games with them. And the kids were like, nah, we don't understand football. Like, no, thanks. I'm going to go on my iPad or whatever. And they're like, wait, you don't understand. This happens once every 30 years with the Bengals. Like, you need to sit here and watch the game with me. So it's really cool. It's a storybook led activity box, right? So you read a chapter with your kid, and then you have a ring toss, which teaches them how the 4 downs work. Or then you do this, and then you teach them how a touchdown, the scoring works. It's really cool. I've actually now talked with several parents and even some grandparents whose kids now watch every game with them now that they actually understand it. So if you want your kids to watch the Commanders games with you moving forward, or your niece and nephew or grandkids or whatever, definitely check out futurefans.com. It does a better job explaining it to them than evidently even a professional broadcaster like I can do, because my girls don't know it nearly as well as like my nephews do, who I got a box for. Futurefans.com.
There you go. So obviously a big topic for Commanders fans will be Sunday's game. Going into it generally, these teams have played twice. What do you think about this matchup?
Well, it's fascinating because, the Eagles are pretty clearly the more talented team, right? I think even the Commanders would admit to that. I've gone through this a couple times to try to see, who for the Commanders I think would start for the Eagles. It's not very many, John. I mean, maybe you and I can play that game. I think Terry McLaurin, probably. But I think there are people that would tell you they'd rather have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith than Terry McLaurin. I mean, but I think Terry McLaurin probably starts at one receiver spot. That's probably it on offense, other than the biggest one, which is Jayden Daniels. He's certainly played better than Hurts has this year. It's by far the most important position, and the Commanders are better at that spot. Defensively, I think Jonathan Allen probably would start next to the all-pro D tackle Jalen Carter. I think, either Frankie Louvu or Bobby Wagner would start as an off-the-ball backer next to the all-pro linebacker Zach Bond, especially with Nakobe Dean being out for the year. And then I love Sanders still and a healthy Lattimore, but the corners for the Eagles are really good. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie's been fantastic. Darius Slay, Cooper DeJean. So I don't know how many that is. Is it 4 or 5? But it really speaks. But yet I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Commanders win the game, which I think speaks to Dan Quinn's ability to get the whole team to kind of play over their skis a little bit, or to play better than they ever have. I mean, think about guys like Dorrance Armstrong and Louvu and Dante Fowler. There's a bunch of guys for the Commanders I think are playing the best football of their career. I would say most notably probably on the defensive side of the ball, but still. And then the belief and faith in Jayden Daniels and what having a quarterback like that does for the team. It's incredibly impressive. You know, my sister and my nephew and nieces, they live in Potomac, and they're so fired up. They've got Washington football fever, and I'm just thrilled for everybody that they're in this position, and they're not afraid. I mean, after beating the Eagles in week 16, you know, they know they can do it. They put up 36 points. They're not afraid, and they shouldn't be.
Right. And I think, it's funny you mentioned the word belief, because I think that's a powerful thing for a team to have. And this team has it. They've been battle tested, all these games winning late, then winning 2 on the road in the playoffs. I don't think I'd want to face this team because there's just something about them that's hard to explain. But I will say this, and then you say, and then the quarterback is special. So how much, when you're watching them, how do you see him elevating them?
Well, it's really fascinating because I don't know if we talked about this when I saw you this year, but I have that Ross Tucker football podcast. Right. And I'm never going to be the guy, John, that pretends like I'm a quarterback guru. I played offensive line. So I have those guys come on my show. And I'm telling you, Dan Orlovsky, Chase Daniel, Greg Cosell, Phil Simms, Sean King, like every quarterback guy I had on my show. And I asked them about the rookies leading up to the draft. I would say half of them said they liked Jaden Daniels more than Caleb Williams. And even the other half, even if they didn't say it, when they talked about it, they all agreed that Jaden Daniels was the better pure pocket passer than Caleb Williams, that he was the better, progression reader than Caleb Williams. I could see that he was the better runner. So I just thought it was fascinating that the Bears were so set on Williams. Yeah. I guess Williams, maybe stronger arm, maybe a better ability to make the unique throws outside of the pocket. But still, I think that's been proven this year that the guys that came on my show on the Ross Tucker podcast were proven correctly. The biggest thing for him is how poised, calm, and composed he is. It's one thing to be really good, and especially really good as a rookie. And that's super impressive and all that. Johnny's clutch.
Yeah.
He plays his best when it matters the most. Think about the fourth quarter of the week 16 game against the Eagles. Think about the following week, that Sunday night matchup against the Falcons, the fourth quarter and overtime. Think about the whole game, but especially that last drive against the Bucs in the wild card round. Obviously the whole game against the Lions, but this guy has that clutch gene. And, some people think that's a myth. I don't.
Yeah.
We all remember Joe Montana for a reason. The guy played his best when it mattered the most. Same with Tom Brady, same with Mahomes. Then there are other guys that's not the case. Lamar Jackson, he does not play his best in the playoffs. He doesn't. Jaden Daniels seems to be in the Mahomes, Brady, Montana category. Not saying he's those kind of players yet, but he's in that category that he plays his best when it matters the most.
Yep.
And the guys know that. They feel that. And I've said this before. I played for 5 teams. I played with guys like Tony Banks and, Shane Matthews, Danny Werfel, all good guys, Patrick Ramsey. I also played with guys like Drew Bledsoe, and then I did play with Tom Brady. And the way I describe it to people is like when you have a really good quarterback like Drew Bledsoe, late in the game, you think you're going to win.
Right.
If you have a quarterback that's maybe not as accomplished, you're kind of hoping you're going to win in those situations. When you have Tom Brady, John, you're going to win. You have the guy. You have the guy that always does it. You always win. And so I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious, and maybe there's a psychologist listening or watching that can explain it. But that belief enables other players to play better than they otherwise would, because that you have the guy. You are going to win the game because you have the guy that always gets it done and wins the game. By the way, Not always. Brady didn't win every game he ever played, but in your mind, you're gonna win because you have that guy. And I really feel like that is how the Commanders players feel right now. They're gonna win because they have Jaden.
So let's look at the Eagles defense. It's a very good defense. Starts with Jalen Carter, Sam Cosmi out at right guard. As of right now, I'm not sure exactly who they're putting. Probably Trent Scott replaced him last week. Regardless of who's in there, he's a handful. What makes him so good, and how do you, if you don't have, excuse me, your best guard in there, how do you then scheme around that so he doesn't wreck the game?
Well, it's actually not that hard to do in terms of the scheme component. You slide to him and you double him. A lot has been made of those last two plays against the Rams on Sunday. I have no idea what the Rams were doing. Like they basically didn't block him, let alone double him. It's like two plays in a row. They tried to double him, but the right guard and the center both thought the other guy had him. And so they kind of let him go. It's like maddening. I mean, it really is. I can't imagine that offensive line coach for the Rams has slept this week. And with Cosmi out, you have to make it a priority to double team Jalen Carter every play. So what that does, though, that's going to put the onus. He primarily lines up over the right guard, right? So that's going to put the onus on the guys on the other side. Brandon Coleman, Nick Allegretti, they're going to get a lot of one-on-ones against Sweat, against Milton Williams, other guy. They're going to have Ajuma. They're going to have to win those because you would be foolish if you're the Commanders if you didn't slide Biadasz towards Carter, especially with him going up against Trent Scott or whoever he goes up against at right guard. You got to send Biadasz towards Jalen Carter, and Allegretti and Coleman are going to have the games of their life.
What do you think for Washington's offense, key to moving the ball again? Because they did it again in the second game, they moved it very well. But what is the key when you watch this, key for them having some success against this defense again?
Yeah, I think really do what they've been doing all year, which is, and Greg Cosell mentioned this last week on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, more no huddle and more empty set than any other team in the NFL. Because the Commanders, unlike other teams, when they go empty set, they can still run it.
Right.
They can still have a run game because Jaden Daniels can still run with the football in that situation. So you go empty set, you force the Eagles to kind of show their cards. I don't think the Eagles are going to blitz much anyway.
Right.
But this way, they really can't disguise it. It enables Daniels to either get the ball out of his hands quickly because there's 5 eligible receivers all out in the route right away, or perhaps tuck it and run. If one of the Eagles does beat their guy and get penetration, the ironic thing is that opens up a seam, right? If a guy breaks through, that's great for the Eagles until Daniels makes a miss, because then there's a big hole for him to then run through. It's like the great equalizer now in the sport of football at any level is quarterbacks being able to run it, whether it's the design run game or the scrambles. Those are like bonus first downs. They're like bonus plays. Daniels is terrific at it. I think he gets the ball out of his hands quickly. I think he probably runs more than 10 times in this game.
Right.
And I think that's the best chance the Commanders have to win the game against a really, really good defense. I don't think they're going to give up the explosive plays. Vic Fangio hates that. Right. I don't think they're going to blitz as much as Aaron Glenn and the Lions did. No. I think that the Commanders are going to have long drives and go the length of the field, but they've obviously proven to be more than capable, especially when you have 4 downs to get 10 as often as the Commanders do.
That's true. Just a couple more minutes here. Let's look at the Eagles offense and Barkley. I was going to ask, how do you stop Barkley, but nobody really does. So how do you contain him, and why is maybe simplistic, why is that run game so good? And I guess off of that, if Jalen Hurts is banged up and isn't going to run, how does it impact it? That's a lot of questions in one.
Well, so number one, I think I don't think this is hyperbole. I think you can make a strong argument that the Eagles have the most physically gifted offensive line we've ever seen. Okay. I've seen these guys up close, John. I know some of them. Jordan Mailata is like 370 pounds, 6'8", moves very well, has like no fat. Landon Dickerson easily weighs over 350 and is surprisingly flexible and athletic. That's just the left side.
Yeah.
Cam Jurgens is a different kind of athletic phenom, having played running back in high school, tight end at Nebraska. He's got a lot of that Kelsey in him in terms of the athleticism with his size. Mekhi Becton at right guard is 6'7.5", 345, and a phenom. And then Lane Johnson is going to be a Hall of Famer at 6'6", 3. I mean, they just wait till you see. I mean, if you get on the field before the game, like it's breathtaking when you see that offensive line. So you combine that with a running back that just has rare physical qualities. It's interesting because they haven't had as much of like a sustaining running game at times. It's like 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, 70.
Yep.
Because if you're stacking the box, you're going to get him a bunch. But if you stack the box and he gets past the second level, you only have one safety. And boy, he makes those guys look bad. I mean, he makes those guys look really bad. You're almost better off having two safeties so that he doesn't break a long one, and forcing the Eagles to go the distance. I think Hurts' ability to run and having to account for him is a major factor, because it gives him that extra guy, even if he's not the one running it. I would suspect that the Commanders really right from the start try to take away Saquon Barkley and prove that Hurts can run. Hurts can have to prove he's healthy enough to run in those situations early in the game, because I think that's the perfect plan for the Commander. Now, if he can, then they have to adjust.
And as a passer, can you do enough to make him like use his arm? I mean, is that and how important will that be in this game? Or because I know they don't have the passing yards, I also know they don't always need them. So it's not like it's that he can't, but they haven't had to. What do you think of that?
I got to tell you, honestly, what I would do is I would play coverage. I would rush 3 or 4 and just try to keep Hurts in the pocket. He can do it, and he's shown time and again he can do it. But if you're doing a good job in coverage, he has a strong tendency to hold on to the ball and take sacks.
Right.
And I think you got to pick your poison when you're playing the Eagles. That would be the poison I would pick. I would pick Hurts proving he can beat us from the pocket with a banged up knee, not letting him run, and seeing, I mean, a lot of the sacks he takes, he holds the ball for over 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. That's what I would try to do. Keep him in the pocket, keep him thinking, keep him holding the ball as much as possible.
Ross, I appreciate your time. Do you make a pick on this game? Do you do that, or?
Sure, I can. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think the Eagles are going to turn it over as much as like the Bucs or the Lions did. They've been outstanding in that area. I also don't think they're going to give up explosive plays like the Lions did. I don't know that the Hurts knee is a major X factor in the game. I think you could go either way. I think it's going to be an Austin game, but ultimately I think the Eagles, they're the better team, the more talented team. That might not be the same a year from now, but I think it is the case in this game. I think it's Eagles, I don't know, 27-20, could be as close as 24-23, somewhere in that range. I think the Eagles, they play 10 times. I think the Eagles probably win 7 or 8 of them, but maybe this is 1 or 2 of the other ones. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's all it has to be. You just get that time. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to be talking football this late in the year for Washington fans. So, Ross, I appreciate you joining us. And if you want to tell everybody again where they can find you.
Yeah, always just check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. I certainly will post a video of the press box food in Philly. I'll be there Sunday, John. I'm on the sideline for Westwood 1 for that game. So really looking forward to it. So you can kind of see what's going on the sideline and in the press box at Ross Tucker NFL. And I really do recommend you guys check out futurefans.com. If you know anybody, or if you have kids between the ages of, like, I'd say probably 4 to 10, maybe 11, check it out. Because if you're struggling to get your kids to watch these games with you, you're not the only one. These guys kind of crack the code. It's like a dad hack. Futurefans.com.
There you go. Ross, thanks a lot, man. You're the best. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, John.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Ross for joining me, and thank you, as always, for tuning in. Again, I'll be back on Friday with another podcast talking to ESPN's Louis Riddick. Had some really good things to say about the organization, just the way this place has been built. I think you'll enjoy it. So, talk to you next time.